Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today we are talking about strange attractors inside X Particles. It's a super simple way to get quick organic results, however it can be a bit unwielding at times. The second part of the lesson will cover how to render X Particles out of Redshift. So let's jump in and see what it's all about. Okay, so today we are talking about strange attractors within inside X Particles. Why are we talking about strange attractors today? Well, first of all, Halloween is tomorrow, so that's awesome, and I thought it's kind of fun to do. But also, just strange attractors are just really rad, and they're just really awesome, and just quite honestly fun to play with. Even if you don't actually use them for a project, they're just really fun to play with, and just to know that they're there. So this lesson is going to be two parts. The first part is going to be just how to use strange attractors, and then the second part is going to be super quick, just how to actually get it out and rendered inside Redshift, how to actually put X particles in Redshift. So this goes under the assumption that you know a little bit about X particles and it's not completely foreign to you. And even if it is completely foreign to you, it's not that hard. So just come along for the ride. All right, so let's do it. Let's go X particles and let's create an XP system. Right away, we're going to get our lovely particles that are generating here. And if you know anything about X particles, you need something, they have all these different kind of effectors, if you will, and they all do different things. In my opinion, the coolest ones are the motion modifiers because they modify the motion of the particles. And then here is where you're going to find the XP Strange Attractors. So let's go ahead and select it. It's down here. All right, and then let's rewind and let's just hit play and see what happens. So right away, you're going to see it makes this like interesting kind of curly shape. And it's like, all right, cool. What do I do with that? I mean, and it's true. What do you do with that? And so what it's doing. So what is it actually doing? So as it says, it's an attractor, right? So the particles are attracted to it. They want to go to it. It's like a magnet. And how they get there happens in a strange way, right? Hence the word strange attractors. It's the reason why they call it strange attractors, because it's just things are happening kind of in a weird way. Let's go to our top view here and let's take a look at it too, so you can get a good idea. So what we have here is we have our emitter. They're both at 0. So we have our emitter and we have our strange attractor, and this is how it's trying to get there in this way. So it's interesting. It's strange, yes, of course. And so what would happen if we took our strange attractor and we just moved it? Well, no matter what we do, it's going to try to get there. It's going to try to actually reach it in that strange way that the people at X Particles have figured out. It's some like real world math equations, and it's going to try to reach its destination in that strange, interesting way. So it's pretty cool already. I mean, like it's already, if you do stuff like this, you're kind of getting some interesting, almost like liquidy results that are happening. And I'm not doing anything. I mean, this is 2 seconds of work. So that's cool. So inside of the strange attractor is kind of where the magic happens, right? So if we go inside of our strange attractor, our properties, you'll see we have some pretty simple options that are a bit cryptic, but super easy to understand. All right, so first things first, this is standard for all X particles. We're just going to skip it. Origin. So this is basically like, where's it coming from? So the origin is, you can drag an object in here, and basically instead of having, let's create a cube, and instead of having the actual modifier be the controller, you can just have an object be the controller. That's really all it is. So if I come in here and if I just hit position, I go here and I go here, hit another position, you'll see that now instead of trying to follow the actual modifier, it's going to try to follow the cube. So pretty straightforward if you're familiar with this kind of stuff. So that's all that does, really easy. The next thing that is probably the most important is these different like algorithms that they've come up with. So these algorithms, as far as I understand, are based on some sort of real world scenario. I don't know, and honestly, I don't really care to know that much about like how or why they are. I think the main thing to know is just to go in and explore with them, right? To see what works for you. So right now we're on Lorenz, and let's switch it to this one, Rossier. And you'll see already we're getting this like kind of weird, I don't even know what it's doing. I mean, we're in the top view here, so it's kind of like a dope thing, but it's like, what do you do with it? Like, you know, if you come here, it's like spinning and whatnot, and it's interesting, sure. Let's try another one. Chen. Okay, so this one, let's see what this one does. Kind of just gives you some like nice flocking and turbulence and stuff is kind of what this one does. So really simple, easy results. And I mean, I'm just on the top view here. So of course, if you're going through different space, you know, different dimensions, X, Y, Z, whatever it is, you'll see that you get different interesting results. I mean, from here, you can kind of tell what's actually happening. It's kind of like spiraling out is what's happening. So it's kind of like galaxies or something. Yeah, so I'm not going to go through all of these because I don't have them all memorized either. I just kind of come in here and play with stuff, which is what makes it so fun. And then I think what you do is you just figure out like, all right, that one's kind of rad. Like, let me just roll with this. And then you just tweak it. All right, so that leads us to the tweaking. So how do you tweak these? Well, these are kind of meant to be tweaked and kind of not meant to be tweaked, in my opinion. These are kind of like, again, I think they're kind of presets almost. They're just really awesome presets that you can kind of work with. But if you do decide you want to tweak them, you do have some options. All right, so let's just run with this one, Berkshire. So with what we have here is we have scale. So scale is going to be like how big the effect is. So I'm going to go to actually to one that's more obvious. So let's go to this one. So here is our scales at 10, it defaults to, but if we put it to 27, we get like this giant shape that happens, right? But if we go really small, then we get the same thing, but just kind of smaller and more condensed, right? And if we keep going out, it just keeps piling up. So that's really all it is this scale of the effect. All right, next we have delta. Now delta is nothing more than speed. So think of it as your speed. So if the higher we do it, the faster these particles get. And then if I come, you know, if you go to 0, nothing happens. But if I go to 1, or let's try like 0.5. They just get slower and slower and slower. And then if I go up, 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 they go faster, faster, faster. So this is just your speed. So I'm going to reset this to defaults, which was 2. Your strength is exactly that. It's your strength. So how powerful is this effect? Like how much is it? Like, and you can see these like dope results I'm getting just by like messing with this. Like it's just cool stuff. Strength is strength, max speed. All right, what's the max speed you can go based on your delta? I think that's pretty obvious, but I'll just go ahead and move it down a little bit, and you'll see it just goes slower and slower and slower. It basically won't be able to go any more than 98 centimeters, I don't know, per frame, I'm guessing, or I don't know what the actual range is. And then iterations is just your step iteration. So it's like if something's moving really fast, it's like how likely is it to catch those particles, right? Usually I don't mess with this. Doesn't really seem to be much of a need to. And then this is probably the most cryptic part. So constraints. So these are essentially the building blocks of how this is made, right? So A, B, C, D, E, F. Yeah, strange. I know, right? Like everything about this is kind of a little weird. So like, what the hell does that mean? Well, honestly, from what I've read and documentation, there isn't much of an explanation other than like, hey, we built these algorithms off of, you know, in this case, three different scenarios, and how powerful do you want those scenarios to be? So if I just come here and I turn this down, you'll see I'm obviously turning something down on the algorithm, right? It's like, it's lessening. Let me just turn this off real quick here. It's lessening the effect of one of the parameters that are happening here. And these are basically your presets right here, is what you can think for this. So this is the presets, and it's just like, how powerful do you want some of these options to be? I mean, that's kind of dope, like whatever it's doing there. It's just making these like weird curly cues. So yeah, and then you'll see what's going to happen if I come here and I switch it to this one, for instance. All right, well, all of a sudden it just reset these to like a different option. So let's go, this one's not the most interesting, but maybe we can make it interesting. It's kind of like let's pick a different one. Where are you going? Let's go, no, I want my access back on. Sorry, guys. All right, so let's do this. All right, so let's come and let's just try to mess with one of these settings. So obviously that's making that less powerful. And these are literally luck of the draw. I mean, like, from what I can tell, there's no real good example of what these actually represent. But just know that there are three things that are going into this formula from my understanding, and you're affecting how strong that actually is, right? So that's cool. So those are kind of the basics of it. But it's like, all right, well, great. I can make stuff spin and move and whatever. And this is where it gets a little interesting, because this particular effect is a little unwielding. It's a little difficult to control, and it's a little bit just kind of a lot of playing around until you get something neat. So, like, from my experiences, how I get kind of neat stuff is I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna just center this out, right? So one way to get kind of neat stuff is, what you can do is you can come to your, let's just set this back to here. Move your emitter. So let's go to character. I love Cappuccino. If you guys don't use it, use it. It's awesome. It's fun. Let's start a real time here, and then let's just start to move this. So as soon as I move this, you'll see we're getting like kind of interesting results where it's like they're trying to go there, but still kind of like doing this dance as it goes through, right? It's pretty awesome. So what would happen if I, let's do one where we do it like in like different spaces. So once again, it's trying to reach, now we're moving the emitter. So the emitter is trying to reach the attractor, which is in the center, right? So let's just keep that, and then let's go to a second option. Like, let's just keep this animation, and let's just see what happens when we change it. All right, that one's not too interesting. Let's go to a different one. I think we need a little more time. I'm gonna build up, or we could just put our speed up. Yeah, you can kind of see it from this angle, what's happening. So we got kind of like this tube effect that's happening with this one. It's pretty cool. So that's one way to do it. And then another way, yeah, again, is to actually move your attractor, right? Because when I move this attractor, it's gonna just kind of just do different things. It's gonna really try to get to where it needs to be. Again, it's a little unwielding because it's kind of almost like nature. It's like you can't control it. Let's just turn up our delta, and then let's have it get there like faster. I mean, that's pretty awesome right there. Look at that. I mean, I'd like to just watch this for a while. So cool. So how do we actually make this even cooler? All right. So what you can do, one of many things you can do, let's go to our generators and let's go to XP Trail, right? And let's just put that on. Let's just see what happens. Okay, so nothing happens because we forgot to pipe it in, or I forgot to pipe it into the XP emitter. Let's go ahead and do this again. Now you can kind of really see what exactly this this object's doing, right? You can actually see that it's the path that it's taking, right? Like I can yield results that are a little more understandable in my opinion. Like I can see what this effector is actually doing. So let's try to change it to this one and just see what happens. Okay, so we're back to our like curve, but what would happen, right? Like, or Tim Burton curve here, but like what would happen if we just took this emitter and let's just start moving it around. All right, so let's go, and I'm gonna actually put down my amount of particles because we're getting quite a bit here. Let's do 500. I'm gonna cut this in half. Okay, that way we can see it a little bit more. All right, so let's go to 150. Let's take this, just kind of move it a little bit. And again, this is one of those things where it's like I'm doing it live, so it's almost impossible to like know what the heck is going to happen here. And I think this is good to see, because you'll see how strange that this can actually be at certain times, you know, and how much you just kind of have to play with it to kind of get cool results. But if you can imagine like a still frame of this, I mean, like, and adding different elements to it, it could be pretty awesome. Past this, what you can do is, once again, I find that if I take my emitter and I just start moving that around, I almost get like the coolest results. Like I can just take this and kind of have it fall down. It's almost like this weird trippy rain that's happening. I think if you move your emitter more, you just get better results rather than moving the attractor. I think the emitter itself gets better results. And that's pretty much it. I mean, there's not much to it. Oh yeah, no, actually I take that back. So actually we do have one more thing to cover. So the one real important thing to know about the Strange Attractors is that the type here, so the type itself is defaults to velocity. And basically what that means is this Strange Attractor is going to affect the particle's velocity. It's going to kind of be like its parent. It's going to tell it everything to do, right? So like, what if you don't want that? Like, what if I want to come in here and I want to take this and put some wind to it or something? All right, so let's come in here and let's go, where are you? Let's go to modifiers, motion modifiers, and let's go to wind, right? Let's take the wind. I'm just going to put it over here and I'm going to crank it up. That's fine. 150 should be fine. Okay, so you'll see right away that nothing happens. And nothing happens because, as I mentioned before, the velocity itself is being controlled by the Strange Attractor. So if you want to actually have it controlled by or affected by other things, you need to switch this to force. So now when I switch it to force, you see it automatically does like different things. So let me crank up the wind and go to a top view so you can actually tell. Let me go 500. Let's go 5,000. Oops. So now you see when I put it to 5,000, this wind is just blowing it all the way over there. So yeah, if you actually want it to be something else like turbulence or whatever, you just need to switch it to force, and that's what that does. And it's not as like pure, I guess, to the algorithm. All right, so that's going to do it for part one. If you're interested for part two, I'm going to quickly run you through how to do this in Redshift and how to actually get these lines into a renderable state. Okay, so let's do it. Okay, for part two, we're going to talk about how to actually get this out into a render for Redshift, just kind of the basics of that, like how it's going to happen. So I just quickly came in here and I made just like a random simulation of these with a strange effector. But this is not just for strange effectors. This can be used for anything within inside X Particles. So it's not really what the lesson's about, but I do want to quickly show you. So let's say we have our simulation and we like it. It's cool, it's great, but we want to render it. All right, so how do we get this out? So let's go ahead and hit our render button here for Redshift, and you'll see we don't see anything. All we see is we see our HDRI that I have in here. So how do we do this? So let's go, and the first thing we need to do is we need to apply a tag. So let's go to the XP trail because we want to see these trails. That's part of something that we want to see. So let's go to XP trail, and I'm noticing actually that these splines are pretty janky. So I'm going to switch them to B-spline, and I'm going to set the intermediate points to be natural. And so now when I resim, they're a lot smoother. Okay, that's good. So that's cool. So I want to see this. So how do I do that? Let's go to tags. Let's go to Redshift tag, Redshift objects. Now when you do Redshift tags, based on what object is on, it's going to switch the options that you have. So here it knows that this is the different option here. So curve. So right now our curve is what we want to see, right? Our spline curve, but it's disabled. So let's go ahead and say we want it enabled. And now you'll see over here that we can actually see our hair strands. And you can think of these hair strands just as that. Like if you're familiar with C4D, It's basically the same thing. It's just how Redshift interprets it, right? So with that, what we can do is we can then apply a texture. So let's go material, and you don't have to. It's just some like default like Lambert material or something that it puts on there. But I want to go ahead and apply a material on here, and let's put it on. And you'll see instantly it's going to pick up the reflections and whatnot. And now you're just in material mode, right? Like I can come in here and I can make this pretty much any color I want. Let's do that. And now we have, yeah, like a green color. I'm just going to save it to the good old desktop here, Untitled 4. All right. I'm also going to quickly turn off my dome light background because I don't want to see that. All right, so we got that. So that's great. So that's the simplest you can get with it. But within inside this tag, we have different options. We have hair strands. We have cones, right? So what are cones? So if I put this up to like 50 or something, you'll see. Okay, so basically they're, actually it is kind of tough to see, but they're like cone shapes that are, maybe boxes will be a little easier. It's basically boxes that go through. So it's just different shapes that you can run along this spline. So if I go to like 15 or something, I think I might have my, I think for demonstration purposes, I'm going to put down my, I'm going to turn off my cache for a second. I'm going to go to my emitter. I'm going to just put my emission to be like 300 or something for now. And I'm going to come back here and I'm going to build my cache. Because right now what's happening is it's too heavy for my machine to actually see it. So let's come here, and now we should have less lines that happen, and hopefully my computer will be a little more happy. There we go. Okay, so it actually looks nicer too. So now you can see these boxes that are happening here. They're pretty rad in my opinion. And again, we did this in 2 seconds. So you can come through and you can just kind of play with this if you want. You can also come here and you can change how thick they are, right? So if it's thicker at the beginning, you know, what the tapering is. That's all this is. And then you can just, yeah, your subdivisions and whatnot. But this looks fine to me, so I'm gonna roll with this. So that's how you get that out. And then once again, you can just apply a texture to it and do whatever you want with it. So the next thing is, all right, well, I see these like nice little dots, the particles, right? How do I render these particles? Well, let's go ahead and I'm gonna put this thickness back down to 1. And then there's these particles that are on the tip, but it's like, why aren't I seeing them? Like, I want to see those particles. They look nice. So it's the same thing. All you need to do is come up to your XP emitter and go to Redshift Object. Okay, when you do that, once again, it's going to show you which option you have here. So you have particles. Right now, it's disabled. So let's put it to sphere. Okay, so we get these lovely, beautiful green spheres here. What these are just like primitive shapes that are instanced over and over and over. So you have really no control over them. The only control you have is the color of them. So you can go to display, and this is where you can change your colors if you'd like to. And then, yeah, you have to resim, I believe, for this to actually happen. Let's see. Okay, so I had to take a quick pause there because I wasn't sure why when I changed this particle color, why it wasn't changing, and this is actually news to me. So I had everything cached, and I guess when you have it cached, it also maintains your particle color, which is pretty lame in my opinion. So just something to note that is what happens. So I'm going to recache this, and now, yeah, if we go, then our particle colors are changed. I just think that's kind of lame though. It's like, it seems like it should be, that shouldn't have anything to do with the caching in my opinion, but I guess that's not something for my department. So yeah, if you want to change the particle color, do it here. But to me, this is a little bit cumbersome and you don't really have many options. So what if you want more options? Like what if I don't want to just use like spheres? Like what if I want to use something a little cooler? Or what if I actually wanted to texture this and have it not just be like this generic like Lambert color? So you have other options. So what you can do is you can go to your generators and let's create an XP generator. Okay, so under the XP generator, we're just going to drag our emitter in so it knows what we're looking for. And then let's just pick something that's like super obvious. Let's pick like a pyramid, right? Let's just take that and let's put it underneath here. And then let's go ahead and let's resim and see what happens. So right away, you'll see that we get our pyramids on here, but we're also getting these spheres. Okay, so why are we getting both, and why are they both blue still? Like, I don't want that. All right, so this is where you need to do one of two things. You can just delete this redshift tag, and then you'll just have your spheres. But then this is still being generated. This blue color is still being generated from our emitter color, which used to be purple. But again, the cache, it's holding on to the cache that we had before. So how do we get this to be that? Well, just throw a material on here. If we throw a material and then we put it on the pyramid, once again, it looks as if our cache is holding on. Hold on, let me resim here. Yeah. So, all right, lesson of the day, cache holds on the color. So anyways, yeah, you can come in here and just put a material on here. So I can come in here now and like you can, yeah, it's just a material. So you can do whatever you want with it. Let's make this like a nice pink color or something. And then it should update on the fly. So I like this option better because now I have control. I have control if this is actually what it looks like, rather than, yeah, I guess if they're really small and you don't see them, then it doesn't really matter. And then, yeah, you can just come in here and easily just swap anything out. I'm going to put the sphere in here. I'm going to delete this one. I'm going to make the sphere much smaller. Regenerate. With particles, you always have to regenerate. And there you go. Now you have it. And once again, it's back to that blue color because we don't have the texture on there. So if we come here and then regenerate again, then you have it. And that is the absolute basics of how to get it out of here. But honestly, the basics are kind of all you need to get it out to Redshift. And then it's kind of like just your knowledge that you know of lighting and rendering and texturing and all that past then. So yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for today's lesson. I hope this helped. And it's a little random, but random and strange, but the topic is too. But I think more than anything, it's just have fun with it because this was a fun one, and they are fun to play with. So play with them, have fun, and yeah, I will see you on the next one.